Hello and welcome to Cab Chat. And my name's Jamie the Cabbie, if you don't already know, and he is.
Tom the taxi driver. How we all doing? We're back.
We're back after a week or so's break from, well, I think it's a couple of weeks break, because it's holiday time, isn't it, Tom?
I'm sure many of you might have had some holiday times as well. As we know, in the cab trade, it can get a little bit slower over school holidays.
Yep.
So it's best time to have a little bit of a break, as I'm sure many of you might have had.
Yep. So I've been away to Disneyland in Paris with my little granddaughter. She didn't even know she was going until we finally convinced her once we got there that she was actually in Disneyland, and she still didn't believe us. So
You mean you went to Disneyland without a convoy of other cabs? How was that?
That was different, slightly different. I got there a lot quicker, I've got to say, a lot quicker. Yeah, didn't leave home until about 9 o'clock, went down at the queue an hour to get through immigration, and onto the ferry, and then once we got the other side, it didn't take that long to do the 200 miles down to Disneyland in Paris, except there's problems on the A104, so the sat-nav routed us off the A104 and through some back streets and some little villages and some country lanes and things like that. And Rachel was laughing because she said, "Oh, it'd be quite fun seeing 100 taxis come through here, wouldn't it?"
Jamie, quick one. I didn't want to interrupt you there, but I haven't got any preview of your screen at all.
Nothing.
I've got a little light. I've got a little tally light up in the corner saying actual recording is higher quality. So I don't know if maybe it's a quality issue or something, but I've just got a black screen.
What?
So I don't know if it's worth us. Yeah, it's nothing. I can hear you. I mean, I've got a little light recording away saying actual recording is higher quality. So I don't know if it's one of those things, like when it buffers and then it does actually save the recording. So I don't know if it's worth
I've got both my end.
Yeah.
I've got you and me.
It might just be a connection issue for mine, then it might just be saving the connection.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I need to run an Ethernet cable down to that.
It shows you're right up here. Anyway. Right, cool. We'll carry on where we picked up then. So, yeah.
Yeah, so where did you go away on? You've been away on holiday as well, haven't you?
I went to Mallorca, another
You went
family.
to Mallorca, did you?
Mallorca. Yeah.
Mallorca.
It was, it was bloody hot, though. Bloody hot. Very, very hot. I've never had it where you go away and, you went in the evening when it all cools down and you're on the balcony and it's it's nice. You almost have to sort of sometimes wrap up. Nothing. It was just solid. I think looking overnight, the hottest, I think it stayed like 27, like all throughout the night. It didn't get any lower than that, which, yeah, aircon was a beautiful, beautiful invention.
Do you know, it was much the same over here because when we came back, me and Denise went away in the camper van and it was getting hotter as the afternoon went on, and it didn't really cool down during the evening either. It was really quite warm. And I got some new Carlos Fandango wheels from our camper van.
You have indeed, yeah.
Yeah, some big old alloy wheels with big old chunky tyres on. Which I'm really pleased. Yeah, but it can't really be for off-roading. It's just for show, really. I mean, you take that off-roading, it's front-wheel drive. It ain't going to really go very far, is it, But what are we going to be talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about more on the AI cars topic, autonomous vehicles, whatever you want to call them, but specifically how TFL have granted private hire vehicle licenses to up to 15 Wave-operated all-electric Ford Mustang Mach-E vehicles.
15.
I saw one yesterday out and about
really?
as I was driving around. I did indeed, yeah. These are the ones, because you got Wave and Waymo, and I'm still kind of confused as to who's going where, whatever.
Yeah.
Because Wave was with Uber, but then they weren't. But then I think they are, because if they've got license, then what platform is using them? I don't know. Or is it its own platform? You would think it'd be bolted onto Uber, but so this is one of the ones that are predominantly black cars that are correct drive side, so the right-hand drive steering wheel.
Yeah,
and they've not got all the cameras on every corner. It just looks like a little roof rack across the top. The more kind of minimal looking one. I saw it pulling out of, is it Catton Street or Fisher Street? One of the ones that goes from like Red Line Square, Proctor Street, out onto Kingsway. So it's pulling through there. And I could tell it was TFL license because it had the round all. There was a guy driving it, and there was stickers in the back window that you now get from the NSL inspection sites.
Yeah. You mean the ones that fall out of your back windows, like mine have? Well,
I don't know. Can I have to kept mine in? I'm fine with them.
No, I left them in. Yeah.
Oh,
And the one on the near side fell out twice.
oh. Wow.
I think the sticky on it is useless, and the one on the off side has stayed in. But the one on the near side, it fell out. I'm not sure if a passenger actually helped it fall out, but then I stuck it back on the window again, and it literally came away again. The funny thing is, I've stuck it in the boot on the boot lid, and it stayed there. But it wouldn't stay on the window for some reason. I don't know why.
Might be, just something on the window, I guess. But so they're here. They're doing it, which makes you. Well, at first I thought it was the ones that we've seen about predominantly. The Waymo ones,
Waymo ones,
the big looking cars that
with all the spinny things on them.
That's it. You would think, well, how could they license those?
Yeah,
because they're
left-hand drive.
Left-hand drive. So then it brings into the idea of the safety factor that I know a lot of private hire drivers don't like having passengers up front. They intentionally adjust the seats forward, so kind of to say, don't get in the front, get in the back.
Yeah.
But it's still an available option for them to sit up front, and to make your passengers go out into the road. I know they do it anyway, but you're kind of almost endorsing that fact.
Yeah.
By having a left-handed drive vehicle, but it just seems so crazy that they've able to approve an autonomous vehicle. We've got our own issues in the cab trade of, do we have a turning circle? Do we not? What's the conditions of fitness for our vehicles, etc. But then a vehicle that can be operated without a driver gets licensed seemingly overnight.
Yep. But there is a caveat to the licensing at the moment, isn't there? And the caveat is that it has to be supervised. In other words, there has to be a driver sitting in the front. So, with a driver sitting in the front, does it make it any different from any other private hire vehicle? Because at the end of the day, it's not autonomous, because there's got to be someone sitting there actually driving it, supervising it. Even if the car drives itself a certain amount of the time, there's still got to be somebody sitting there that can take control of the steering wheel. And I had a passenger in the cab yesterday, and he said, I saw one of them Waymos last week. He said, coming out of a one-way street the wrong way. And I said, well, that's not a surprise, really, is it? I said, and I recounted the Kingsway Tunnel incident to him. And his actual words were, when I said, the official story was that they got held up by a traditional taxi that had broken down. I said, isn't that ironic? I said, and apparently they did a 3-point turn in the tunnel. And you know what his words were? And he's quite a well-to-do fella. He said, absolute bollocks.
Bollocks, my dear boy.
Yeah, he said, absolute bollocks. So, that's the general public's view of that story. So, they've got to be supervised. So is it any different to any other private hire vehicle? Because they're saying we're licensed autonomous vehicles, but have they actually licensed autonomous vehicles if they've got to have a driver sitting there supervising?
Let me just add here. So I'm reading this off of Taxi Point as always. There's always sort of a plethora of information, and it's kind of good to get it, the exact wording that's going on here. This is actually a 1-year trial. So they've licensed it under a 1-year trial, which seems bizarre because you would never get anything like that within the cab trade. It's not like this whole issue that we're talking about with the Ford Maxi cab and turning circle. They're not turning around and going, oh, let's give that a 1-year trial. I would argue that the fact that it's got a driver behind the wheel, even though it's a driverless car, I mean, I know we said it's useless, but how much intervention can that driver put into it? Like, where does the liability, like we said before about the liability, where does it sit if it goes wrong? Like, if it already commits to a street it shouldn't be driving down, does the driver then go, right, I'm going in there and I'm going to get it out? Also, this is presumably a driver that doesn't know London, right? Because
Yeah.
you already see this with private hire drivers anyway, driving down streets they shouldn't be driving down. So it's kind of like the blind leading the blind, isn't it? What's the
Well,
Richard Pryor movie? And
yeah, I saw a comment from someone on, I can't remember if it was on Instagram, TikTok, or wherever, and they said, because they're actually hiring private hire drivers to drive these autonomous vehicles. And it said, if you're a private hire driver that has taken on the job of driving one of these autonomous vehicles, if that vehicle drives down a one-way street the wrong way, speeds, has an accident, or anything, commits any sort of offence, as you are sitting behind the steering wheel, you are responsible. You are the one that will receive the fine. You are the one that will receive the points or whatever is coming your way. So, effectively, it's a driven vehicle.
yeah,
Because, and with a one year trial, it's just kicking the issue down the road a bit, isn't it, really? Because they're not saying, okay, we're going to have autonomous vehicles on the streets of London. There's a lot of objections from all corners, not just the taxi and private hire industry, but from the GLA, from various MPs, that a lot of people feel that this is unsafe having these vehicles on our roads. So it's not just us that are saying, we don't want them. There's other factions from within the community that are saying we don't want them as well. So, it's not just the taxi and private hire trade that are saying we don't want them because of, they're scared of job losses. It's a whole plethora of people that are saying we're unsure about these autonomous vehicles.
well, I think as well the sentiment I'm getting from this article that Perry from Taxi Point has collated is that the London Assembly Transport Committee are basically responding. This is so TFL have said, right, we'll allow the licensing of up to 15 of these vehicles, but the Transport Committee have actually looked at it and gone, well, is this a bit too rushed? What's the actual process that we need here? And they're trying to look at other examples from, say, San Francisco, Norway, where apparently they've done this in Oslo. Oslo, Norway, or was it Sweden?
No,
Anyway,
Oslo's not. Yeah.
yeah, so they're looking around the world to basically go, well, what can we learn from other places? And should we be putting a bit more of the brakes or more of a... And they're going to be publishing their own report on this, really, thinking, has TFL jumped the gun here?
Yeah, it's a whole minefield of legal problems that could come up if these vehicles are allowed out on the streets on their own. I'm getting an echo now.
Yeah, I can hear myself come through the echo.
Yeah, it's weird. That's strange.
You've turned it up a bit, so it's coming through here. What, you getting your echo or my echo?
I'm getting my echo.
Yeah. So I think that's turned up in here. That as you turned that up, it then came through.
Yeah.
And I was getting an echo through you.
I don't know. But
have you got echo cancellation on your end?
I don't know. It won't let me turn it on once we're recording anyway.
Oh, geez. Oh, so it's off.
It looks like it's off, yeah.
Okay.
Unless your mic keeps going loud and then soft and then louder then soft.
It might be, I don't know, if the echo cancellation's then trying to compensate for that.
Yeah, could be.
But
anyway,
it's only got it on one end.
Let's carry on. I've cut that little piece out.
Mm-hmm. There's two pieces to cut out on this now.
With Wave, and you say, Waymo and Wave, and it seems to be, there was a news article a couple of weeks ago, I think just before I went away, that said that Wave and Uber are sort of ending their partnership in the United States. So it doesn't look like there's going to be an Uber Wave tie-up, Uber and Waymo tie-up over here. And that's obviously why they've gone with Wave over in London. But it's strange that they've chosen London to do this. I can see the point in some respects that if it works in London, it'll work anywhere. But would it work on country lanes, single track country lanes?
I think it probably would, and it would probably serve better outside of London than here. Again, it's one of those things that I think they've trying to bite off more they can chew. It looks more impressive because people... Okay, let me unpack this. My brain is just swirling on this. It looks impressive because if people come to London, they see these driverless cars come about, and you get the sort of people who come into Euston Station and go, by gum, look at that driverless car going down the street. Don't they have nice cars down here in London? You've got that element to it. But also, in terms of taxis, like, we're quite protected because we interface directly with the passenger.
Yeah.
So long as there's always someone who wants to directly, hail me on the street, we're still going to have work.
Yeah.
Our work might diminish, but there's nothing that's actually going to be like a switch that can be turned off and we just lose work overnight.
Yeah.
If you're, say, like an Uber driver, that could happen to you. Whereas in other parts of the country, I know the taxi services almost operate a bit like, say, private hire drivers in some respects. They might have their designated ranks, but I would say it's probably rare for them to kind of get a hail on the street.
Yeah. It's
Like,
more,
people don't know how to hail, like, a
it's
taxi.
more station ranks and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, they can hail them down, but it's just not the done thing. So I don't think it could be more effective in a place like, I don't know, a smaller city or a smaller town or something.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe the network effect of London, the fact that you can have more of these vehicles parked up, humming around, and it's a bit of a rant, but.
Yeah, but it's you say about, people coming out of the station and saying, oh, look at those driverless cars driving down the road there. That's a good accent, wasn't it? And, those driverless cars with a driver sitting in the front. Oh, so is it really driverless? That's the question, isn't it? Is it driverless or isn't it driverless? Is it autonomous or not? Because if there's someone sitting there in the driver's seat, in my personal view, and that person is responsible for that car and any offences that car commits, that car's being driven.
Yeah.
No matter whether that guy, whether the person sitting behind the wheel actually touches the steering wheel, he's still responsible for that vehicle. So that vehicle's being driven, no matter what. Yeah? So have they actually licensed driverless vehicles? Or have they licensed a driverless vehicle that's being driven?
But it's this weird place, again, though, because they're not trained, that they don't, I come back to my original point, that I don't, if the car makes a mistake, the driver is in a real like, if a sat nav comes up and says, like, go down this street and you're driving the car, you have to make a very strong decision to go, I'm either going to go down it or not.
No.
Whereas if this starts going down the wrong street, as a person who doesn't know London, you're going to go, well, I don't know, mate, maybe it does know what it's doing. Why should I intervene? Like, and it's a much harder process to intervene with that, because it's ticking away. Like, you have to, as a driver, to excuse the metaphor, but you have to pull the trigger when you commit. You have to go, right, I've got to do this, whereas this is going to do it for you. So I think it's probably going to be potentially more unsafe, really.
Yes. More unsafe. So what have they actually licensed? This is the question, isn't it, really? Because they're saying they've licensed autonomous vehicles. Yeah, they have licensed an autonomous capable vehicle. But there has to be someone sitting in the driver's seat. So have they licensed autonomous vehicles, or have they licensed another private hire vehicle?
And I think what makes, another private hire vehicle, this is what makes a little bit of a mocker of it, I think, is that it's got technology and stuff on it that is so new, untested, you can't buy as a, as a
consumer.
owner, as a consumer. So how is that allowed to come through and be, licensed instantly? Where we would get scrutinised over little features on the cab that don't adhere to Transport for London standards. I know we're a little bit different because we have to have the taxi and stuff like that, but
and if this technology is so great, why taxis or private hire vehicles? Because why not buses? Buses stick to a route.
Yep.
Yeah. Why not make autonomous buses that just drive the route?
Yep. Trucks, whatever.
And trains. Trains are on a track. They can't go the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, the Elizabeth line is fairly autonomous.
Well, the DLR is, isn't it? But it has
press
been
the
for
buttons
donkey's years.
Yeah.
Ever since it was first built, the DLR has been driverless.
Here's another, bit of the article here. It says, before receiving licenses, the all-electric Ford Mustang Mach-E vehicles equipped with Wave's AI driver technology, alongside surround cameras and radar systems, were inspected to ensure they met TFL's vehicle policy and safety standards. But it's cameras and radar. Like, who at TFL is like an expert to go, oh yeah, that's compliant radar. Like, you can't have a certain dash camera
Yep.
in your cab
Yeah,
or your private hire
and yet you can have
vehicle.
loads of cameras all the way around the vehicle, analysing all sorts of things
The
and getting all sorts
yeah,
of data that no one really understands what's going on. But yeah, we can license that. But
yeah, and like
Tom, the
who
taxi
owns?
driver, you're not allowed to have an unapproved camera in your cab to make a YouTube video with,
Well,
even though you're adhering to sort of data protection, GDPR, and not showing any passengers or anything like that. But because you've got an unapproved camera pointing at you, yeah, attached to your windscreen, that's not allowed.
Well, even if you wanted to say, I've seen some drivers who have those mirrors that show it's got a camera in the back and it shows the rear view of the cab. So you could argue that's a good safety feature because it gives you an unobscured view of what's behind you. Well, that was not TFL approved.
Listen, you're getting onto a whole different thing here, but my view of it is, right, there's nothing in law in this country that says you cannot record in public, right? So if you've got a dash cam that's pointing outside the front windscreen, and one that's maybe have an additional camera that's looking out of the rear windscreen, yeah, why does that have to come within TFL's remit? The only time it needs to come within TFL's remit is if you are recording the passengers inside the cab. Yeah, because then you're invading someone's personal space.
Yes, yeah.
But if it's looking out the front windscreen or looking out the rear windscreen, that's perfectly legal. You can walk around the street recording with your GoPro or with your Osmo Pocket or whatever you want.
Yeah.
And no one can say a word. People can object and say, you can't record me. Oh, yes, I can. You're in a public place. There's no restrictions.
You can even film private property so long as you are standing within the
public
confines
realm.
of the public realm. Yeah. You can stand outside of school and do it. It's probably not.
Well, no, you
advisable,
don't really want to stand outside of school and do things like that. But you can stand outside a police station and do it.
The metaphor, exactly. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Which is, wild. But no, we can just strap all kind of radar and stuff and not know where the data is. I mean, is there stickers inside of that Wave autonomous vehicle saying this is now collected? I mean, actually, to be fair, to answer my own question there, they do actually have a web address on the outside of the cab. On the outside of the car
that says privacy.
Yeah, where you can, I guess, like data protection, you're allowed to request information based upon the fact you've been captured. But even that, like, it's a real small web address, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't think you could have like liveries and advertising on the side of private hire vehicles.
Well, yeah, exactly. So how have they licensed it?
Exactly, like you can't.
It doesn't comply with their licensing.
You can't even put a QR code. Well, Ubiquitous told me this. You can't put a QR code on the side of a taxi with part of the supersides advertising.
Do you know why that is? It's because they're worried that people are going to walk into the street and try to scan the QR code. But you can put it on the side of a bus.
I mean, you can put it on the side of a bus. You can put it on the
you can put it on the back of a bus.
Tiny web address at the bottom of like the rear corner of these private hire vehicles.
But you can put a QR code on the rear of a bus so people can walk out in the middle of the road and stand behind a bus and try to scan the QR code. I've seen that before. And maybe get knocked over or crushed between the bus and the car behind. Yeah.
I hope people can kind of see our frustration where we are with this. It's like it's just one rule for some and then
another for others.
Yeah, like you can't even buy this vehicle. Like,
I mean, so what's our conclusion with regards to these autonomous vehicles on the road? They're not really autonomous, are they? They're autonomous capable vehicles, but they are being supervised for a year. So I think in respect, and I think what TFL have done here is they've pacified the company wanting to have these vehicles licensed, but they've basically just kicked the bucket down the road by saying it's got to be supervised. By supervised means it's like your cab's supervised by you. You are the supervisor of your cab. You're sitting behind the steering wheel and controlling it. So all they've done is kick the bucket down the road for a year and said, right, we've licensed 15 of your autonomous capable vehicles, but they've got to have a driver sitting in them. They've got to be supervised, which basically supervision is a driver. They can't have someone sitting in there that hasn't got a driving license, can they?
No, exactly. So
it's a
there
driver.
has to be
and they've got to be a private hire. They've got to be licensed as well. Apparently, they've got to be a licensed private hire driver. So
it can't just be any random.
It can't be Joe Bloggs. Go and get a geezer from down the road and just get him to sit inside the vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because again, it comes into the sort of passenger safety element of,
yeah,
is that the guy that's picking you up
yeah.
who's on the app that says they're
Well,
picking you up?
it's got to be DBS checked and all sorts of things. So yeah, it's a private eye vehicle that's
I mean,
it's autonomous capable.
my hypothesis with where this all is that at the moment, I think the technology is severely kind of bottlenecked and restricted in terms of speed and how, they approach the capital. And I think once they get more and more people giving the thumbs up, then they'll ratchet up the kind of the speed and the intensity of these things.
Yeah,
That's
but
kind of the way it's going to go.
what I'm saying is TFL have kicked it down the road for a year because
Yes.
I've said it's a trial for a year. So it's given TFL enough time to gather more data for more people to object. And they could end up doing what New York City turned around and said, no, it's not for London.
Yeah, well, a lot of places in America, they've kind of said, well, no, we realised that jobs are good for the economy. Having people working is far more important than
Yep.
this. We understand that, a driverless vehicle that will go anywhere, whenever, whatever, is going to be good for some needs of people, but people and the economy kind of come first.
Yep.
It's, yeah, wild.
But one thing they said about autonomous vehicles, and I read a comment from a blind person, saying it would be good because it would give blind people their independence back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think I came across a similar one. I listened to it on a podcast, that same sort of
Yeah. So
thing, yeah.
one thing, I mean, many years ago when I first started driving a cab, there used to be a young lady that used to go out on a Friday night with her colleagues from work and would always be standing in the queue at Charing Cross Station. I picked her up on numerous occasions, numerous occasions. She always had her guide dog with her. And a lot of drivers wouldn't pick her up because she had a dog, but, at the time there was no rules on guide dogs and things like that. But I was quite happy to pick her up. She used to live in Earls Court. I'm not going to say exactly where because she probably still lives there, actually. And used to drive her home, yeah? I did freak her out one night because she didn't. I just said hello and how are you, and didn't ask her where she was going. Then dropped her off at her flat, and she freaked out because she said, "How do you know where I live?" But my point is, whenever I used to drop her off, she used to say to me, "Can you just tell me exactly where I am?"
Yep.
Yeah. So that when she got out, because being in the back of a vehicle, obviously she could get talking, she could get a bit disorientated.
Yep.
Or if she's doing something else, like, listening to something or music or something like that, you can get disorientated. So I would turn around and say, so we're on the corner of so-and-so street and, I'm about 3 cars parked along. Yeah. So that when she got out, she knew because she knew where she lived. She knew exactly where she was. An autonomous vehicle is not going to be able to do that.
No.
It's not going to be able to do that. So where blind people think it's going to give them their independence, they're going to get out and stumble around trying to find out where they are and trying to reorientate themselves. Whereas with a driver, the driver is assisting that passenger.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said for having a driver in a vehicle and the assistance the driver can give to the passenger in more ways than one.
But then, they'll probably get behind. It's like the Ray-Ban Metas. I've heard of blind people have those, and because they have a mode on those which allows, I think someone's like Be My Eyes or something like that, which basically you can put them on, start a voice call with, say, a relative or a friend or whatever. So you just put them over your eyes or whatever if you're blind, and they can see where you are, and they'll be able to talk to you through the glasses and say, "Oh, you've got that in front of you. Oh, yeah. Can you see what's in my fridge?" Whatever the thing may be.
Once again, it's giving someone assistance, which the autonomous vehicle can't. And,
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
the old thing, we are, taxi drivers, we are counsellors, we are, an ear to listen. And, we're all sorts of things, all wrapped up in one thing, which, you get a young lady gets in the back of an autonomous vehicle crying her eyes out. The car's not going to say, "Are you okay?
Yeah.
Is everything all right?
Gosh,
do you want to talk about it? I'm a stranger. You can talk to me all you want. You're probably never going to see me again. And the car's not going to say that, is it, really?
I mean, some of the people I picked up yesterday, the sort of people that really have to like shuffle their way into a cab, and it was absolutely awful. It was that new cycle lane that's on Clerkenwell Road. And I had to just proper I didn't want to marshal traffic, so I didn't want to stand out in front of the cycle lane and tell people to stop, because this was like 5:30, 6 in the evening, when obviously you got a lot of cyclists sort of going home. But I sort of had to, because of how slow this guy was shuffling, and he was like, "Can you drop me like right by the front door?" Then I'm like, "Well, I can't because of the crossing and this and all those little things, like you say, like getting him in the right place." And
Do you know what we should do is pull up and try to load a wheelchair there, so that basically you have to put the cab on the wrong side of the road,
yeah,
pull the ramp out, because you've got to get enough space to get the wheelchair round and onto the ramp, and block the whole road up for like 20 minutes just to prove a point and video it.
yeah, yeah. It's not good if
It's not. It's
the way
not
these AI things are
London
going.
isn't being designed for anyone other than able-bodied people.
Yeah.
Anyone that's got any form of issue nowadays, in my view, would have a severe problem with navigating their way around London on their own.
Well, I don't know how I picked up this couple, this elderly couple. And they're only going from Rosebery Avenue down to that block, sort of on the corner of Rosebery Avenue and Clerkenwell Road. There, you know, that I guess community housing block there or whatever. And I don't know how they would have even got on the bus. Like they were there queuing for the bus. And I'm like, how do you operate in London? Like I obviously could sort of pull over, give them enough time, you know, help them in and stuff like that. But as you say, for like able-bodied people, I know that Transport for London does, where it can, make reasonable adjustments because that is what you have to do underneath the Disability Discrimination Act.
And
But
equality, yeah.
you do have to kind of look at the needs of the most. But then a lot of people are then going to get left behind through that.
My point exactly with autonomous vehicles, because you've got out and sort of marshalled cyclists around these people trying to get in the back of your cab. An autonomous car wouldn't be able to do that, would it?
No. And it's, you know, it's there to go out and make money and be efficient. And it probably doesn't want to pick up these kind of people that are going to take time.
There's no community in autonomy, is there?
No.
Anyway,
my final sentiment. I want to add a final sentiment here. I touched on it a little bit in the episode because we get knowledge boys, students, people who want to become cab drivers. Listen to this.
Just a quickie before you carry on. Do you think they could get autonomous scooters so they could just sit on them and drive them around and do the runs for them while they just sit there taking notes as they're going around?
I think even that probably wouldn't work from a learning perspective.
No, because you've got to drive
because you've got to actually again commit to the turn and you've got to feel that turn and your brain actually has to click and do it. It's the same way why a sat nav will never give, like, if you could load all your runs onto a sat nav, for instance, and you just run into the sat nav, you would never learn it.
Yeah.
Because you're not actually having to do that clicking in your head. But yeah, sorry. So for knowledge students who are thinking about this, as said earlier on the show, we're going to be safe because people directly interface with us. Our passenger numbers might go down if, let's say, loads and loads of autonomous vehicles get licensed, but we don't interface with an app. We're not then going to be replaced overnight as a private hire would do because they're going to be on the same app and platform. For as long as, you know, it's the same with like any other facet of society, like a shop or whatever. So long as someone wants to go into their local high street and go see their local shop, they can carry on trading. There's nothing stopping them. And we can just endlessly drive around and constantly be an advert. And the fact that our vehicle is different is the greatest, I guess, brand marketing that we have. And then they deal directly with us. So
one other thing
we're safe.
Is that I forgot what I was going to say now. We will be safe to a certain extent because of what you've just said. There was a really prolific point I was going to make then, which has totally gone out of my head. No, the one thing I was going to say was that obviously I do a lot of tours with a lot of American guests coming over to the UK. Now, obviously, autonomous vehicles are you know, they've started in America, and it's quite funny listening to most of them, and a lot of them have used them and tried them, and nearly 100% of them have said they would never use them again or would never consider using them. They do not trust them. They've seen all the horror stories on social media and things like that. You know, the guy that got his suitcase stolen by the Waymo vehicle, and, you know, he's just got out, and then they try to charge him to return his suitcase to him. They all say, no, not interested, won't use them, won't use them at all. They would rather use an Uber driver, which is saying something.
Yeah, and I think it just goes against, especially in America, they have that kind of positive can-do attitude for the, you know, the independent contractor, as they would call it, or like, you know, a business owner or someone that goes out and wants to go and earn a pound note or a dollar bill or whatever. And it's kind of remembering that you are interfacing with people and the whole wider economy. And is this really what we want? Another thing that will silo people even more so that every facet of your life will be headphones in, operate with a computer, have your food delivered to you, work from home, go to a gym where you don't need to, talk to anyone. Very
Yeah.
Orwellian sort of stuff.
Yeah. Don't socialise.
Exactly. That, and I can't remember what I was going on the
Become
second
very
half of it, really.
insular and
Yeah, and that's kind of what I like thinking about when I'm driving around in a cab, is that also as from our job as well, was that we are kind of the last of the grafters. And what I mean by that is that we are kind of the last of the people that get to come in each day, set up shop, a bit like a market stall, like Cheapside would have been in the City of London back in the day, where you come in and you're kind of actually having to start from zero and directly interface one-on-one with the person. It's very hard to find that now. Again, markets are probably one place where you'll find it.
yeah.
Independent kind of little shops and stuff. But other than that, you're interfacing with corporates, which then more likely be autonomous things, screens and efficiencies, and that one-on-one human touch. Yeah, we're the last off. I've digressed it now. I think I've gone too wide now.
Yeah.
Bring us back in. Bring us back into land, Jamie.
Back in. So right, that to wrap up. I mean, we conclude, and I think we both agree that this licensing of autonomous, not going to call them taxis, autonomous private hire vehicles, is basically just the licensing of another private hire vehicle, because they've got to have a driver sitting in the front at the moment. And it has to be a licensed private hire driver. That driver is responsible for any offences that vehicle commits. So it's no different to any other private hire vehicle, because the vehicle's not going to be let out on its own. TFL have basically, and rightly so, I think, at the moment, kicked the bucket down the road for a year. So they can gather more evidence, more data, and more opinions on whether these vehicles should be licensed in London, or if at all, because it's only a year's trial. And I think we both agree on that point. So in effect, it's all a bit of spin, and nothing has really changed.
No. Well, as another one in the books then, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So until next week, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hype, and do whatever, because we need to hit 1,000 subscribers before February next year. We really need to hit before February next year.
No, because isn't it? It's still 1,000, but then it's the watch time.
Watch time's gone up to 8,000 watch hours in 12 months. So we are getting 8,000. We're getting 1,000 a month. So. But it'd be easier if we hit the 1,000 before then, because we're getting to the partner program, and this can start paying for itself.
How far off are we, Jamie? How far off are we?
We're about just under 800, I think, 797 or something like that, I think.
I'll open a new tab. There we go. Yeah. Yes. Okay, yeah, so you know what you got to do. Like and subscribe and all that fun jazz.
We need 200 more subscribers to hit that 1,000. So yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, and if you want to comment, please do comment. We love your comments. I do try to answer all the comments, actually. But yeah, we like your comments. Until next week, that's all from me.
That's all from me. Bye-bye.